Hey everyone! I didn't have breakfast yet, but I saw this video and I felt like I have something to say about it. I think I will just put the breakfast stuff to the side for now and instead make a little reaction video. Oh, I'm not near to my mic. I have to boost the volume of that later. So much about mixing pros. This is going to be about mixing because this guy has 3 things that he just doesn't like about the way we discuss audio engineering, I would say on social media, content creation and stuff. And there are just 3 topics that keep coming up that are kind of popular and he doesn't like them. I don't want to tell you everything because, you know, it's his content and you should go watch this video yourself if you are interested. But I want to talk about something specific, which is his third point. So we're going to watch the third point together and then I tell you my my view on that.
All right, number 3, man, do I hate this tool, Plugin Doctor. I mean, I had no idea that this thing even existed until we started putting out plugins.
Okay, so Plugin Doctor, everyone knows it nowadays because Dan Worrell just makes videos with Plugin Doctor non-stop, and since he does it, a lot of other YouTubers also jumped on it. And there is always a very heated discussion about that in a lot of audio engineering forums. Like I always see that on Facebook and stuff like that, where one side of the people is like, oh yeah, Plugin Doctor, that's nice, you can check what your plugins are doing. And the other side of the people are like, oh, you have to use your ears. If you're just mixing with your eyes, then you cannot really tell if it's good. One example is equalizers. You can use Plugin Doctor to analyze if the EQ is cramping at the higher frequencies. And some people do that, and then when the plugin doesn't have a mechanism for decramping, then that automatically makes the EQ look bad, like, oh, that's digital EQ even though the interface looks analog, and then the people cannot enjoy the plugin anymore. And that makes people feel like, okay, I could also just use Pro Q for this instead because it's digital anyway, and Pro Q has decramping even though it doesn't even try to be analog. And the other side of the people says, okay, but you liked the EQ before, so you should still like it, right? Why are you stop liking it now? And I think both sides are kind of, they have their point.
And I remember someone was reviewing one of our plugins once in a YouTube video, and you know, they're playing with the plugin and they're saying they like it. Oh, this sounds pretty good. They're turning knobs. They like what it's doing. Then they pull up Plugin Doctor.
Wait, what is the effect in question? It is a reverb apparently with a delay, okay. And what is being analyzed here? The linear analysis on the reverb. It's all over the place because it's a reverb. And it has a drop off at the end apparently, which makes a lot of sense for a reverb. I mean, that's cool. There is nothing I see here that seems like wrong in any way, but okay.
Plugin Doctor and run it through Plugin Doctor, and then suddenly they decide that they actually don't like the plugin with their eyes. This is like eating a cookie and thinking it tastes delicious, and then analyzing the chemical breakdown of the cookie and then deciding that no, it actually is not delicious, it actually tastes horrible.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's the case when, for example, when you eat something that tastes very sweet and then you learn about how it's just not very healthy. And then you decide, okay, well, retrospectively speaking, maybe I did taste a little bit of fakeness in the food and now I will avoid using it. You know, sometimes these kind of things don't come just when you are listening with your ears, but only when you have, or only when you have listened with your ears a lot and also watched some analyzers. One of the big examples is clipping. Oftentimes when you're just soft clipping something only to cut the very peaks, you don't really hear the difference, and you are only doing that to get more headroom, to bring down the peak level. And you can barely do that without an oscilloscope at hand, because otherwise you don't know where to actually put this point. You can play around with it and listen very closely and maybe feel like you didn't change anything, but you did. And it would be cool to just see that immediately, I think. In some cases, definitely use your eyes.
If you are worried what a plugin looks like in Plugin Doctor, and if you're letting that dictate your decisions to any degree, you are way off track.
Okay, let's see how way off track you really are. Because I once made a video that is called Do Not Use Your Ears. And this was a beatmaker challenge and it didn't get a lot of people watching it. Like, I only got 9 likes and 194 plays, even though it's one of my best videos ever, really. Because, you know, it's 1 hour and I can see that people are like, oh, 1 hour of completely unedited production. I have no time for that. But this was a very unique and special challenge because I made an entire beat without listening to it ever. You can see I didn't wear my headphones and my speakers were also turned off. All I did in this whole beat was looking at analyzers while making decisions. From the start, composition, sound design, mixing, recording vocals even, and mastering. And it turned out really good. I do want you to go watch the video yourself, but let's just look at some points. And yeah, you can hear the sound, but I couldn't hear it. That's the point. So here basically I'm turning the frequency shifter, get the kick to be a little bit lower, and I do that by looking at the waveform. And if the wave cycle gets longer towards the end, then I see that it starts taking effect. And if it exceeds a certain length, then I know that it's like below some sort of frequency that you can still hear. So yeah, you can use an oscilloscope like that. Okay, now I have to find out what kind of snare we have here. Beats. Spectral. No window. Oh, okay. Starts too late. So there's already one thing that I saw, which is that it starts late. And the second thing that I saw was that like just the dynamics were a little bit too linear, that it would sound probably better if it was a little bit more round. So I turned down sustain and decay. What is the way to turn down the speed of this thing again? I think it was... So this was already a little bit more into the center of the production, and you can see at this point it already sounds really good, even starting to add some funky rhythms here. So you can't see what the rhythm is doing because of this nice visualization, and yeah, you don't really have to hear that, you can just see that. I also know how Synth 1 sounds, so I can set up a patch in Synth 1 without hearing it pretty much. And then I need to make a little bit of room in the high end, some mastering and stuff. Oh, actually the snare is very dominating here. So it's good when I'm turning it a bit down. Yeah, so here you can see what the snare is doing, because you see when this meter is exceeding the threshold, how much it is exceeding threshold and how quick it goes down back to the point where it stays mostly. And based on that you can make decisions about attack and release, because when you have much experience with Pro MB, then you just know what it more or less looks like in certain mastering situations. So this was a little bit of the ending of the track. It was not perfect, but I think for considering that it is an entire piece of music that was made without listening to it ever, it is just incredible. I did this challenge before many years ago and it was terrible. So you really have to know what to look for in your visualizers in order to succeed in a challenge like this. But once you know what certain things look like, you can use your visualizations throughout the entire production basically. And yeah, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't use your ears, obviously. Your ears are what the music is made for after all, but it certainly also means that it's alright and very encouraged to look at visualizations in order to find out more about the sound that you currently are working on. There is more to sound than sound itself. For example, when I listen to something on Fuba, volume is turned down now on purpose. What I often like to do is when I finished a piece of music, I listen to it just in Fuba and not in my DAW anymore, in order to get a different perspective. Sometimes even before the production is finished, only so that I can look at the spectrogram, because the spectrogram shows you the left channel, the right channel, and for both of these channels, like what is the texture of the different frequencies like at different times. And I think that's pretty useful. Like you can see there is some sort of trail of volume in the middle of nowhere. Everything around is pretty much quiet, but you can also see there is some movement in this area where there are some notchy things going on, moving smoothly through the spectrum. And it also happens up here a little bit, and something is being added slowly. You can also see, for example, that the kick doesn't utilize the low end to its full extent. And you could see that as a flaw of visualizations, like, okay, I have to add something there, even though I didn't feel like I have to add something there before, and now I made a decision only based on my eyes. Or you could just see that as purely information, like, okay, there is nothing in the low end, but that doesn't mean that I have to add something. It just means that I am now aware that there is something that could be added if it sounds cool. And then I could hop back into my DAW to try that. Here, for example, a very interesting texture in the low end. I didn't even know that there was so much texture down here, and that's very interesting. But that doesn't mean that I need to set a low cut. It just means that there is something interesting going on to watch out for when I open the project the next time. And then I can try to set a low cut, and if it sounds better, then it's cool. And if it doesn't sound better, then it's also cool. Yeah, that's my point about visualizations.